Yo guys, what is good? Welcome back on the Uncle Sharma channel. Here we are for a Champions League round of 16 preview, something that I've not said on this channel ever. It's the first time ever I'm getting to say this. And to join me, I have a massive good friend of mine that actually this is the first time I actually talked though on camera. Raj Chohan. I'm sure a lot of you might know him off Twitter. His work on BBC Sport, Premier League panel, the Twitter handle and all that kind of stuff, the footy doctor on Instagram, and of course a Liverpool fan. Thank you very much, Raj, for joining me on this special episode.
No, thank you for having me, Sharma. I know obviously you got rid of Conte, so finally you made it to the last 16 with the rest of us.
Yeah, the Conte curse has been lifted. Limone ball has brought us to the promised land. Coming into this, man, if you see all the comments here, Inter fans are not particularly confident coming into this match. A lot of the fans are feeling quite scared, and it's funny because if you gave us this match like 2 months ago, November, December time, we were flying, we were scoring goals left, right, and center. We were unbeaten. We were killing teams. Then the winter break happened. Then this February period has been an absolute killer for us. You know, Juventus, Super Cup, Napoli, Atalanta, Milan. It's just been a busy period with a lot of difficult matches, and now we're not feeling confident at all. And on the other hand, Liverpool, November, December, you looked like you were stumbling, and now you look like you're flying. So how are you feeling coming into this match, bro?
Yeah, I think that's a good summary, really. I think it's almost a complete flip reversal with Inter fans. Obviously, we were, as you said, there was a very sticky patch for Liverpool in November, December. The midfield particularly was looking quite threadbare. Thiago was out. The likes of Curtis Jones was out. This midfield area was really a big problem for us. And I think that's what led to a lot of kind of pessimism amongst the Liverpool fan base. A lot of people weren't too kind of happy with the Inter Milan draw. That was a pretty tough draw for us, really, compared to all the other teams. But as you say, last few games, I think momentum's really building again. We've got fit players back. Signing of someone like Luis Diaz has added competition. We've got a youngster like Harvey Elliott's come back in. There's a lot of different factors now, which are now being a bit more optimism. The defence looks more like the defence that won the Premier League and Champions League. So yeah, as I said, I think it's a bit of a flip reversal between Liverpool and Inter there.
Yeah, definitely. That's the best way to put it. And I've prepared a couple of few slides to go through with you. I've taken a lot of screenshots from the Prem Panel account, so you'll recognize a lot of your own work. But as we spoke there, I've got just the screenshots of like so you guys are coming in off 6 winning streak, or it might even be longer. That's the screenshot I took off who scored. Whereas we're coming off a bit of a mixed period of losses, 1 loss, 2 draws. And then as the Inter legend Bergomi there said, is like, it's not just the amount of games we played, it's the importance of a lot of these games, like, big matches, that nervous energy that Inter have expended this past month is a lot of like, the Coppa Italia match against Empoli went to extra time. The Super Cup went to extra time. The derby was like super intense. The Napoli match we played the other day was like super intense. So there's all these other factors that that we need to consider coming into this as well. Both teams have relatively easier matches after this. We've got Sassuolo, you got Norwich. So I guess you can go full strength for this match, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty strong 11. I think Klopp actually rotated a bit in the Burnley match previously as well. So Thiago was rested. I think Jota was rested as well because he had a little bit of a knock. And also, those two are the main people who are rested, really. I think those two are going to be key coming back in for the Inter tie, especially, as I mentioned, I'll probably keep mentioning him throughout the stream, but Thiago, I think this guy is basically he's been the main reason why Liverpool's forms also look a bit better in the last couple of matches. So I think he'll be fit and ready to go against Inter. And Firmino as well came in Jota's space against Burnley. He's not the same force as he once was. So again, resting Jota is going to be a key importance, I think, for Inter. And as you say, for the Norwich game after, I expect a couple of those guys to drop out again because Norwich are pretty poor, let's be honest, this season. So I think that has fallen a bit kindly for Liverpool.
Yeah, and there was this website called I don't know if you've probably seen it, the 538, I think it's called. The algorithm gave Inter a 2% chance of winning this of winning the Champions League. What do you say? What percentage would you give Inter?
2%. Oh, that's a bit low, to be honest. I think Liverpool aren't as impenetrable as they once were, so I'd probably give it at least 5%. I mean, you guys obviously top of Serie A. I mean, you're better than. You're probably going to be a better challenge than what Milan posed to Liverpool in the group stage. Obviously, you did get quite unlucky in that Milan derby recently, but I did think you were still the better team in that. But yeah, I expect a lot tougher match than what Milan gave us. I mean, Milan lost to a real B team, Liverpool. It had the likes of Takumi Minamino in there, Tyler Morton. There was no one real recognising other than Mo Salah played, but other than that, it was a very B-string 11. Nat Phillips played. This guy's gone on loan to Bournemouth in January, and Milan still couldn't beat Liverpool. So yeah, I expect a tougher match from you guys.
Yeah, I mean they turned Nat Phillips into compared him to Maldini after that one turn he did on Ketty, didn't
they? yeah. I think it was on Zlatan actually. Zlatan got absolutely done by Nat Phillips. So it's an embarrassing day for the Milanista, I think.
Yeah, that's the day. That's the day where I started because before that I wasn't I was like, oh yeah, this Liverpool team does look a bit weaker maybe. But then I was like, these guys came to San Siro. I know Liverpool had Milan had injuries as well, but you guys literally wiped the floor with them with almost a C team, even though a B team. It was like a C team almost. So after that, I'm like, wow. There's something intangible with Liverpool in the Champions League. There's just it's one of those things you just can't explain.
I think there are. I think obviously the tradition of the club, they love playing in the Champions League. Obviously, Klopp has won one, but I think even in last year, Liverpool were beset by injuries. Really, still managed to get to the quarterfinals. Real Madrid beat Liverpool in the end, but it was a bit of a tough tie for Real. It wasn't an easy tie. So as you say, there's always something about Liverpool in Europe where they raise their level, and there's certain players will probably go into them who do respond to the occasion as well.
Yeah, exactly. Let me continue with my slides that I prepared. Getting into the players, I could have picked Salah and Mane, Jota, Firmino, the main ballers and stuff. But I tried to focus it on these two guys because I think these two are going to be the pain in the arse for us in this matchup. I think Trent and Robertson, they're probably two of the best fullbacks, if not the best fullbacks in the game right now. Picked out, obviously, as I said, screenshots from from the Pen Panel account, and you talk about how Trent, obviously he's a right back or a right wing back, whatever you want to call him, but this guy has been given the freedom this season by Klopp to even come inside to play that, almost like a number 6, play line breaking passes, doing things like that. But of course, even from the right back position, this guy is going to kill you with these balls in behind the defense. Like Jota has been great signing. He's been a revelation in that forward false 9 role. And even if you keep him, deeper, he can pick out passes like that. Like, how can you defend something like this? Like you keep him away from the box, and he still punishes you with crosses. If you keep him, central, he does things like this. This is a big worry for me. And then Trent, on the other hand, he's he's a bit more of a runner compared to Robertson is more of a runner compared to Trent, but he can also whip some mad balls in. So do you agree with me? Do you feel like these two are going to be the key?
That's an interesting point you make, actually, because obviously Conte played us a few weeks ago for Spurs, and he obviously lined up with a 5-3-2 system as well, or a 3-5-2 system, and he really struggled to deal with Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson. Obviously, with Conte's teams and your team as well, you only have that wing back really covering those wide spots, and they were overloading them in that spot. Really, Conte didn't. Obviously, the wide midfielders are more tasked with then tracking the fullbacks. Then the wing backs often you have to help with the likes of Salah and Mane. But Conte struggled to really keep a track of Trent and Robertson, and I think that might be similar with your system as well. Particularly with someone like Barella out, you won't have that industry in that right-sided number 8 role to help track someone like Robertson. But you mentioned some good points about Trent as well. His role has slightly shifted. How I would kind of describe this Liverpool team is I'll split it in two. So the right side of the team functions very differently to the left side of the team. If you start from the back, Van Dijk and Matip are very different in how they build up. Van Dijk looks for those more aerial balls over the top. He does obviously switch it up to the fullbacks as well, more simply. But Matip is more of the guy who looks for those line-breaking passes through the middle of the pitch. He did that against Arsenal, for example, very effectively. And he also looks to carry the ball. So that's the one difference between the right and the left there. But then further forwards, in the way it gets more interesting. I say Trent has had a lot more freedom this season. He even mentioned himself. Klopp says, I don't care who occupies one of these slots, but I always want one guy sitting in that kind of right-sided number 6 position, one guy bombing in down the wing, and one guy making a run into the box. So that's between Salah, Trent, and whoever plays the right side of number 8 role. So it's probably Henderson in this case. So those three have a kind of lot of freedom to roam. And then if you look at the left side, it's more about Mane is not playing as a winger these days. I mentioned this in the African Cup of Nations final. He took this forward to Senegal. He plays more of a left-sided number 10, very narrow. I think obviously his 1v1 play has declined a lot. So I think he's playing more as a 10 inside, and him and Jota play very close to each other. And then it's down to Robertson to provide those overlaps down the left. So that's why I think your right-hand side, Denzel Dumfries, if he plays that right wing-back role, I know he's switched off on a number of occasions for you this season, and you called him Brick Freeze and other kinds of nicknames I've seen. But he's going to have a very tough job because he's going to be occupied. Mane and Jota can be occupying the inside, but then Robertson will make that late overlap on the left-hand side. So that's going to be the conundrum for Inter. How do you deal with those kind of overlays? The combination play on the right, but also that threat on the left. So yeah.
So much headache for Inzaghi to deal with. There's so many weapons you guys have, as you mentioned there. What about even in midfield now? Fabinho is turning into a goal-scoring midfielder. What's going on there?
Yeah, it looks like he's learned a bit off his mate at Brazil, Casemiro, because Casemiro never used to be known for his goals. But then he suddenly started popping up the set-piece goals. But Fabinho, as you're right, he's got 5 goals in his last 7 games now. I think Klopp said, because the thing was, Fabinho never used to be in the box from set pieces. And Klopp said, okay, I made a mistake there. All these years, I should have been putting Fabinho in the box, because as soon as you're putting him in the box, he's now burying goals. And he looks like a very big set-piece threat. And set pieces, I think, is the other thing you guys need to be careful of, because even in the last 3 games, the opening goals against Cardiff, Leicester, and Burnley have all come from set pieces.
Yeah.
That obviously with Van Dijk back, Matip's a big guy, and now you got Fabinho added to the mix. Mane's decent in the air as well. So I think there's a lot of and Jota as well. So there's 5 set piece threats to deal with in the box. So that's another area I think. Obviously, you've got the guys got the big 2 at the back, De Vrij and Skriniar. They can deal with set pieces quite well. So it should be a good match in that regard.
And at the same time, we're a big set piece threat. We scored the most set pieces in the Serie A, and the Skriniar over the last couple of years has improved so much with his timing of runs and the timing of his headers. De Vrij is also, a good threat. Dzeko, obviously, if he starts, he's a big threat. Perisic is very athletic, got a good jump on him. Dumfries as well. So yeah, we've got. And if with Hakan starting, I think he's one of the best corner takers in the world. Some people make fun of him, calling him corner man in the into Twitter community, but he really is like when he has a corner, it's like you're very likely that he creates a chance of it.
You can't knock it, really, can you? It's like set pieces are one of the most underrated parts of the game, I think. Yeah. If you can break the deadlock via a set piece, it just makes your life a lot easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I see it's kind of split in the comments at the moment. Some people are like completely like throw the game and forget about it. Let's focus on Serie A. Some people are kind of wanting to be a bit more positive. And I'm in between. I want Inter to be at least. I don't want us to be like make a good account of ourselves, if you know what I mean. I just want basically I don't want the Premier League fanboys to be like, oh yeah, Serie A, Farmers League. This is the team that's first.
Yeah, you don't want that.
No. And actually, guys, Raj is like one of those guys. He watches a lot of Serie A. He watches like La Liga, but Bayern Munich. He's not one of a Prem Tard or one of those type of guys that we would hate on.
I try not to be, definitely
not. So I'll put in a couple of. I mean, you mentioned some of the things already. So where is the hope for Inter? And there isn't much. So you mentioned that the Spurs-Liverpool match. Obviously, a lot of Inter. I remember that day. A lot of Inter fans actually tuned into that match just to see, because we already had confirmed that we were going to face you guys in the Champions League, and we were like, Contest 352 is like the best preparation we could possibly have to see how that would match up with you guys. And yeah, they had trouble, as you saw. They decided to like block off the midfield and give you all the freedom on the wings. And that's why you said, Trent and Robertson had all the freedom. So I can see Inzaghi going for a similar approach where Dzeko, Lautaro, or Sanchez, whoever plays there, just to block the first ball into midfield and let you guys kind of play off the wings. And I could see that kind of working to a certain extent. And the one thing the Spurs did really well was those runs in behind. Son and Kane really gave you guys a lot of trouble. But of course, do we have that same pace on the, Reguilon and Emerson? You could, definitely Dumfries and Perisic can match that type of pace.
Yeah.
Dzeko, Sanchez, Lautaro, I don't know if they can match the pace that, Son could have in behind, or even Kane. I think he's a bit underrated in terms of his pace. So that's where the question marks come in. But that's definitely somewhere that you guys...
Is Correa out, is he then?
Yeah, Correa's definitely out for this one, for sure. He might be back for the second leg.
He would have been a good matchup in terms of what you're talking about there.
Yeah, exactly. The way, all these last few matches, bro, and I get flamed for being a Correa fanboy and all that kind of stuff. But we needed the guy in these last few matches because we had against Milan in the derby, there was so much space on the counter. Against Napoli, there was so much space, and we were just like crying out for a guy with a bit of speed and a bit of pace to just be there. So we do miss him at the moment. And then one of your other tweets I picked out was you guys against Brentford, and I watched this match as well. They were really smart with these runs in behind Robertson, or like on the blind side. So that's obviously, like, for any defender, that's a weakness. But it seemed like it particularly worked for Brentford against you guys. So I could see potentially, whoever plays in midfield making those kind of late runs, or Perisic in behind Trent. And Trent, of course, as much as you love him and as much as, I love him as well, but defensively is definitely where he's susceptible, isn't it?
You're right there. I think what Brentford did there as well, they played also 5-3-2. So they had Mbeumo and Tony up front. Those guys cause a lot of problems in terms of one of them would often drop deep, and then the other one would make the run in behind. So I think you'd probably be better served if it's Dzeko and Lautaro. Dzeko should peel onto Matip, because he's been bullied on a few occasions this season, I have to say. I think he's not... Yeah, Joel Matip. He's not been the same guy since... So he tore his ankle ligaments last season. So after the Van Dijk injury, and I don't think he's come back the same player. Physically, he doesn't look as good. He also lost a yard of pace. Son particularly ripped him in that Spurs game in behind. So I think you guys get Dzeko a bit deeper from goal kicks, for example, and he should have some joy against Matip. The other thing is what Brentford did there is they overloaded that far post on Trent. So one of the big issues about Liverpool this season has been the right-sided 8, and it's been mainly Jordan Henderson. Jordan Henderson is not the same athletic player he once was as well. He similar to Matip, he's lost a lot of legs. So if you look, for example, yesterday, Burnley played Liverpool. Weghorst outran Jordan Henderson from box to box for one of the chances. He's not the same pace he once was, so he's not helping Trent as much on the cover. So that's leaving him a bit more exposed. There were recent goals against Leicester and Chelsea. Pulisic and Ademola Lookman made runs in behind Trent. And normally, if Henderson was at his best and in his peak, he would be helping track those runs, but nobody did, and it led to goals. So I think that left-hand tunnel, you can get a lot of joy. So I think Perisic, you might want to use Perisic in a bit more of a freer role on the ball. He can make those runs in behind to penetrate in behind Trent. As you say, Lautaro. So if you're talking about Dzeko playing on Matip for goal kicks, probably Lautaro would probably, when the ball gets further forward, Lautaro would be better off playing on the left and getting in behind Matip. Because obviously Dzeko's not going to run in behind as much. But yeah, I think that right-hand side is an area you can target, definitely.
Yeah, it's mentioning that Perisic, like, this is a screenshot straight from the last match we played against Napoli, and they had a lot of trouble dealing with Perisic's run in behind. So the problem we had here, though, was like you can see Dzeko and Lautaro there, their run, like, they come deeper, so that means that space opens up. But then by the time like Perisic gets into the box, there's only Dumfries is in there. So that's the problem we're having at the moment, that we are creating these openings from those are the two quickest player in this team at the moment. But at the same time, it seems like we're a bit toothless in attack. So it's a catch to a 50-50 at the moment.
So who will fill the right-sided 8 role now? Barella's out.
Right. So yeah, let me get into that. So the predicted lineups at the moment, it looks like Arturo Vidal is gonna be favoring my king Arturo. He started in the Coppa Italia match against Rome. I think that was kind of his kind of what do you call it, like a training or a trial period. And he did decent. The guy is nowhere near his peak. The guy is much slower. The guy struggles to complete 90 minutes. He gasses out at around 50, 60 minutes. But compared to Gagliardini and Vecino, he's the best option I think we have. And actually rewatched a bit.
Do you know what?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Karen. Interesting. Do you know what Arturo Vidal's last Champions League match against Liverpool was?
Yeah, the one that they lost 4-0 Barcelona.
Yeah, the 4-0 Barcelona. But the thing is, Vidal was actually one of the best players on the pitch.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Thank you.
Yeah, him and Messi were the only guys who didn't melt under the pressure. And I think Vidal actually, it'll be interesting if he does play that right. I had a feeling he might play the left, but if he's in the right, that's interesting because I think he can make those runs into the box. And that's, I think, as you say, if you've got Perisic making those overlaps, then hopefully Vidal can try and get on the end of them as well.
Yeah, but that's the issue. Like I've always felt that was what Vidal was brought in to do, even when Conte. But he's never been used like that at Inter. He hardly ever been used like that, or maybe he just doesn't have the legs to do that anymore. But yeah, in my mind, he should be that kind of midfield assaulter because he has that. Like throughout his career, he's a guy that gets regularly like 8-10 goals a season from midfield. But ever since he's come into Inter, he's always been playing a bit deeper. And I feel like more than Hakan for sure, he's more of a goal threat in the box than Hakan. Barella, does that as well, but he's still got to improve on that loads. And I feel like Vidal should be used like that. And yeah, that match that you mentioned, the Vidal, he completed the most tackles as well. He had 7 tackles completed in that Liverpool-Barcelona match, and he didn't get a yellow card, guys. I know everyone's scared of Vidal getting a yellow card. I know that's the joke running in the Inter fan base at the moment that playing Vidal is guaranteed a yellow card, but somehow he completed 7 tackles, not attempted. He completed 7 tackles without a yellow card. So it's possible that he can go this match without getting sent off, although it's always a worry. But I am scared of him not being able to keep up with the tempo. And that's a question I have for you, Raj. Are Liverpool the best pressing team in the world?
Interesting question. So, yeah, I probably would say they are, to be honest. I think the best example of that recently was probably the Arsenal game. Carabao Cup second leg. Obviously, Mikel Arteta wants to keep the ball on the ground. And he likes to play out from about the likes of Ben White and Ramsdale. But they really struggled against Liverpool press. It was interesting. What Klopp did was he had the right winger. It was Cade Gordon on this occasion because that was at AFCON. He basically pinned himself to the left back. And then Jota and Firmino, those guys hassled the 2 centre-backs. So and they tried to play out against it, but Jota and Firmino were just too much in terms of their pressing. And then the midfield unit behind it was so compact. Klopp's got that drilled to a T. So I think since probably Hansi Flick's left Bayern, I would say they were the best pressing side. But I'd probably say Liverpool are the best,
Yeah, so do you feel like, in this situation here, like Roma tried to press us really high in the Coppa Italia and we played around, like we created a 7v4 situation there. And we, with Brozovic, usually we managed to play out. Like, do you feel like this is somewhere you could hurt us?
Potentially, but I also think there's an area you could expose as well. As I say, I keep mentioning his name, but Jordan Henderson has been a weak link, even in terms of pressing this year. So if you try and, who's that on that left-hand side in front of, is it Bastoni on the left there? And then who's in front of him?
So that's, it says De Vrij, D'Ambrosio, and Skriniar, because I think that's the match where Bastoni, that's the match where Bastoni got injured, so Skriniar moved to left centre-back, and that's Vidal.
Oh, fine. So Skriniar's got that lane open there, you see in front of him. I think Henderson isn't as sharp as anymore to close that as the right-sided number 8. So that could definitely be an area you could maybe play out of. And I'm sure Inzaghi's seen that in the tapes, that's where Liverpool's press is probably the weakest, down that right-hand side. So, and then if you can get Trent then pulled out of position behind that, then Perisic making money behind him, then that could be somewhere you can maybe play out from.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was saying. Like, Di Marco if he's gonna if it's gonna be either DiMarco or Bastoni, he was the one that was managing to make these long balls into Perisic in behind. Dumfries here, I think it was De Vrij who made this ball here. Napoli tried to press this high, and Dumfries caught Mario Rui off guard. So yeah, those counter-attacking moments, or those deep build-up moments where we can try to surprise you guys, probably the best Inter can do. That's
and then at least you've still got Dzeko as a long outlet if you need it. That's the key.
Yeah, we've got the plan B.
Yeah. So the problem that Arsenal had, for example, is they had Lacazette at top. So when they pumped it long, Van Dijk and Matip are just coming straight back at him. So, but Dzeko can win duels. As I say, if Dzeko particularly pins himself onto Matip, I think he can help you in terms of releasing yourself from that press.
Yeah, and people are talking
that
about
comment I've just seen is correct as well. Dzeko always scores against Liverpool. He buried 2 at Anfield, I think, when Roma played Liverpool. 5-3, I think it was. So he probably have a few good memories of playing Liverpool.
Yeah, hopefully that comes through. Going back to the Inter lineup, I just want to talk about the other decision. So yeah, I mean, I've seen a few people say even Vecino could possibly be. I'll definitely even if I've seen rumors in newspapers that Inzaghi's even thinking of Vecino instead of Vidal. Even that I would take, because Vecino's probably after Barella, he's like our quickest kind of midfielder in terms of getting around the pitch, kind of average speed, if you know what I mean, like trotting around. Whereas Vidal and Gagliardini are kind of on the slower side, and Vecino adds that aerial threat and late running into the box. So yeah, even I wouldn't be even against Vecino. Gagliardini is, I mean, I wouldn't go as far as saying I would turn the match off if Gagliardini starts, but I know that Inzaghi's going for a draw or like a very defensive match if Gagliardini is starting, if you know what I mean. Up front, so Who Scored is saying that Dzeko and Martinez is starting, but I think because Inzaghi rested Sanchez, at the moment it looks like Inzaghi doesn't play Sanchez 2 matches in a row. I think Inzaghi, I think Sanchez is going to start this one. He's our most informed player at the moment, I would say, or striker anyway. He won Player of the Month for Inter this. I saw today they tweeted out deservedly. So I feel like in this Champions League night where you need something special at some moment, someone to create something out of nothing, I would start Sanchez for sure. I think Sanchez deserves to start. Lautaro has been stinky. Although he did create the goal for Dzeko against Napoli, he hasn't scored since December, I believe, and it was a penalty as well in the league. I think he's gone like 5 or 6 matches now without scoring, but I feel like his pressing would be really good to have in this match. And Dzeko has now played, I think he played the Coppa Italia match, and he played this Napoli match as well, the full night. He played the derby as well, full 90 minutes, and he's 35 years old, so I don't really know how much in the tank he has left at 35 years old. So I'm actually leaning towards a Sanchez-Lautaro partnership, which actually works. So the Dzeko-Lautaro partnership just does not work in my head, in my mind, and practically we've seen it. The guys, they just don't have any chemistry. Like, what have you made of it? Like, I know you analyzed Lautaro and Lukaku over the last year or so. You wrote an article for the BBC around Lukaku as well. So you know just as well as me, like, how this partnership is just not clicking, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the main way, what I understood from watching a lot of Inter footage, Lautaro and Lukaku click was in those transitions. Those guys we have to be so close to each other in transitions. I've never seen it really in a team in a long time. Lukaku and Lautaro, they're basically on the halfway line sometimes together, and they used to just play off each other and then make runs off each other. It was fantastic to watch, really. And obviously, that's not going to suit Dzeko's game, is it? Playing those. Staying on the half, he wants to be further up the pitch and winning flick-ons and getting it into feet, not really carrying the ball or making runs from deep. So yeah, I agree. It's not really the best complement into the partnership. Lautaro wants that guy to play off, doesn't he, as a wall, really. But Alexis would be an interesting choice. Going back a few months, I would have said Alexis definitely to play against Liverpool, because they were struggling really to deal with those runners in between the lines. I think someone like Graham Potter exposed it with Leandro Trossard playing as a false 9, and Alexis could definitely do something similar. But I think recently the midfield has become a lot more stable with Thiago coming in next to Fabinho. Those guys, they've won every single Premier League match with those two starting. So Alexis, I think, might end up becoming a bit drowned out in the middle of the pitch because it's so watertight there now. But if that's the case, Jacko could still be an impact off the bench, of course, as someone different.
Yeah, it's just like, obviously it's going to be an intense match, and he's played 3 matches in a row that have been very intense. So that's I'm thinking about it more on a health basis, like in terms of just he's not going to be able to. And we've seen even against Napoli when we were trying to press, Lautaro is really one thing we can always say with Lautaro is like he might be, if not the best or one of the best, like pressing forwards in the game. Like the guy, if you're trying to win back the possession high or you're trying to get interceptions, the guy is so good at that. His playing in between over the last season or so has not been as good. Whereas Dzeko is like, he's gonna try, he's gonna do like a half-hearted press, whatever his legs let him do. And the problem with Dzeko
so he might be better off the bench.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm leaning towards a Lautaro Alexis partnership because as I said, the link up better. Yeah, Alexis is good at finding that space in between the lines. He's in form, so I think he just deserves to start on form. Just as the rest of the team is like, Dumfries is starting ahead of Darmian because he's the informed player. He's not, starting there because Darmian is out or anything. He's the informed player. A couple of people have asked about Bastoni. So Bastoni today I read he took part in training, but not fully. So he took part in some of the team training. So he wasn't on his own, but he went and trained on his own after a little while. And then tomorrow, apparently, he's going to take part, or he's going to try to take part in full, the finishing training that the teams do the day before, or the day before the match. Sorry, so he might be part of the match. I don't know if he's worth risking for this because then if he gets, he twisted his ankle, it's a sprain. You never know that one. You could always. Raj is also, a bit of an expert when it comes to injuries. What do you think about that? Should the Inter try to risk Bastoni with an ankle sprain?
How long ago was the sprain now?
Just a week ago when we played Roma.
Yeah, that's very tight. I mean, even with a grade 1 ankle sprain, you'd be looking at 2 weeks recovery. So it would be risky because ankle sprains are obviously at high risk of recurring again. So, I mean, you guys obviously have a big title race going on. I think it would probably be more sensible to be cautious with him on that one, to be honest. Yeah,
exactly. But at the same time, it's like it's Salah. it's Mohamed Salah is probably the one of the top, if not the best top 3 player in world football at the moment. And Di Marco, as well as he did against Napoli, we have to give it to Di Marco. I had faith in him, but Politano and Elmas are a completely different beast to Mohamed Salah and Trent on that side. So, or even if it's D'Ambrosio, anyone like on that left hand side, if he is able to give us a decent amount of minutes, I would try to risk Bastoni because if you are gonna try to get a result in this tie, it's gonna be at home at the San Siro, really, isn't it? You're not gonna go risk at Anfield. So I'm leaning towards trying to risk him if he can in this match.
The other thing Bastoni is going to be key with, there's another thing I haven't mentioned so far, is the high line of what Liverpool are playing. I think earlier in the season, Liverpool were exploited, as I said, in between the lines a lot. But in response to that, Klopp said, I want to push this high line even higher. So he has pushed it to the extreme. It is almost like Hansi Flick's Bayern in terms of how high the line is. And if I've got a stat here, actually, Liverpool have caught people offside 90 times in the Premier League. The second is Man City with 49. 49 to not, there's a massive difference there. So I don't know whether you watched any of the Burnley or Palace games recently, but those guys got a bit of joy. It was very rare. There's about 1 or 2 occasions where they got in behind because the line is so high, and Liverpool are good at playing people offside. But you can sneak 1 or 2 openings per match behind it. And as I say, Perisic, I think, can be key for that. You haven't got that pace up front you mentioned, but Perisic and Dumfries, if they can maybe come inside and make those runs in behind, that could be a bit of joy for you. And then you've got Brozovic's passing range, clipping it over the top. Bastoni, as I said, Bastoni can play his pass as well. I remember watching one against Juventus last year where he played it above the whole of the Juventus back three. I forgot who. I think it might have been to
Barella.
Lukaku. It's Barella, yeah. And it was a fantastic pass. So something like that, Bastoni would be very good at in this tie to get over the top of the high line.
Yeah, exactly. That's where all my hopes are lying, basically, bro. Like as I said, like Perisic and Dumfries. I'm just, I think it's going to be the battle of the wings. What do you think about the midfield battle? What about for you guys? Is it certainly? Wait, one. Let me pull up the who scored lineup. So Henderson, Fabinho, Thiago. Is that what you think he's gonna go for?
Yeah, I think so. But if I'll be honest, on merit, Jordan Henderson shouldn't be in there. Even obviously you've got Harvey Elliott coming back. He might not be fit for this. Fair enough. He has played a couple of games before. It might be a bit much to ask him to play in the San Siro, but someone who I think should be starting is Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. He actually played at the San Siro against Milan, and it was his best performance of the season. He kind of ripped through Frank Kessie, actually. I was quite surprised. Kessie couldn't handle him on the half turn, spinning him behind. And I'd have him ahead of Henderson. And Oxlade-Chamberlain's actually got a good record in the Champions League as well. He was part of the team that got to the final in 2017-18. And I think he's looked back to his best. But I think Klopp will lean with the captain. It's that influence of a captain and having the armband. I think that will sway. Henderson actually got hooked against Burnley on 60 minutes because he was that bad. And there was a stat, actually. When Thiago came on for Henderson on 59 minutes, Liverpool only conceded 0.01 XG after that. Before that, whilst Henderson was on, it was 1.15 XG. So there's a big difference there. But yeah, I think, as I've mentioned it a couple of times in the show already, but that'll be your main opening down that side.
Yeah. No, it'll be an interesting midfield battle though, for sure. Because whoever steps in for Barella is gonna have a big job to do. And actually, one more point on Vidal that I forgot to say. Vidal's best performances this season actually have come in the Champions League. Sheriff away, Sheriff at home, Shakhtar as well. Like, and he's had the most minutes for Vidal on a percentage basis have come on in the Champions League as well. So he has been our Champions League guy this season as well. So I'm sure I can see why Inzaghi is leaning towards Arturo there as well. But I hope he doesn't try to play him for like the whole match of 70 minutes, like 55, 60 minutes. Hook him. I don't care if it's Gagliardini or Vecino. Like he can't last more than 55, 60 minutes for sure, especially with how you guys are going to play with intensity.
Is there any chance that he might switch to 3-4-3 to look for a goal at any point? So, for example, hook a midfielder, but Jacko, Sanchez, and Jacko, Sanchez, and Lautaro up front, or no way?
I mean, Conte used to do it. He used to go for this 3-4-1-2 when we were desperate. He used to bring on Sanchez as an impact substitute to do that. So he could if we're desperate for a goal. But I haven't seen Inzaghi do it too much, to be honest. He seems to be sticking pretty certainly to the 3-5-2. He just changes the people, if you know what I mean, the men. So I don't really see that happening. But yeah, I we got Felipe Caicedo as well, who's come in as a loan. He's going to be fit to potentially take part. And he's obviously been a super sub for Inzaghi at Lazio. So I wouldn't be surprised if he comes on if we're desperate for a goal, just another physical target man vibe. There was a good question here about the removal this season, by the way, guys. There's no more away goal rule. So, Liverpool at San Siro, their goals are not going to count extra. Our goals when we go to Anfield are not going to count extra. What did you make of that removal of that rule?
Yeah, it's an interesting rule, isn't it? I think the problem with the away goals rule was, I think they were saying teams who then, if away goals count more, the teams who are playing at home have a disadvantage. Because obviously, if the tie goes to extra time, because you're playing 120 minutes at home,
yeah,
but then away goals can count double in extra time, where they didn't count. You didn't have that time to score an away goal in the first leg. So I think that might be the main advantage of it. In terms of fairness, I mean, it's equal now, isn't it? There's no real disadvantage or advantage. Team, obviously, Inter finished second in the group, so they have that slight disadvantage of playing at home first. But that's kind of earned, isn't it, from the group stage performances rather than being down to luck or anything like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I was going to make that point, but then, yeah, you've already explained that, you deserve it for finishing first. And by the way, the other reason why I'm so scared of Liverpool, you guys, that was supposed to be the group of death as well, and you just breeze past it like it was nothing.
I think it became a fake group of death because Atletico were dreadful. They guys have collapsed massively this year. They're not even going to. I don't think they're going to even make top 4 in La Liga this season. So yeah, it ended up being. I don't know how they qualified out of the group, to be honest. Some of their performances were awful. I think Milan probably deserved to go through, or Porto. But yeah, then we ended up nicking Porto's best player as well in January.
Yeah, what do you make of that, Luis Diaz? He's. I mean, you've got that weapon off the bench if things are not going well for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, did who scored say it was be a Mane, Jota, Salah front three? Did they?
Yeah, but who scored is not usually that reliable. They just kind of, I think they just throw out there.
Yeah, I think that's what it will be. To be fair, yeah, because Diaz, he's an electric option off the bench. He's a similar profile to Mane. His 1v1 play is outstanding. He can shoot from distance. He's an excellent dribbler. Yeah, he's strong as well. So yeah, I think it's a top signing. I think Liverpool needed it really. The forward line was looking a bit stale with Firmino and Mane. Those guys have both had a decline. So I think this might be an easier battle for Milan Skriniar than it would have been 12 months or 18 months ago. So yeah, Diaz could well prove to be an option that's needed off the bench. Skriniar handles Mane, which I think he might.
Yeah, but I mean, he's going to have to. We're going to need a top match from our top boys. So Skriniar, Brozovic, Chala. These guys are gonna have to really step up. And of course, we haven't mentioned Handanovic in goal. He's been a bit of a thorn in our side over the last couple of seasons. He's good. He's also been good. Like against Napoli, he was good. We have to give him credit where it's due. But at the same time, we are scared if you guys are gonna pepper our goal. How many of those shots will Handanovic save? And the other end, I know Alisson's probably not at the level that he was at when you guys originally signed him from Roma, but he's still a top class keeper, isn't he?
Yeah, obviously I mentioned the high line earlier. A lot of that functions because of Alisson. The guy is an ultimate sweeper keeper. His starting position is so high, and he intercepts those balls over the top. So if Brozovic is looking to ping them over the top, it'll be down to Alisson to sweep it. But as you say, there would have been a couple of errors, I think, against Spurs in that game. Alisson came flying out to one of those balls in behind for Son, and it ricocheted off his leg and went to Son's path. So he has had a couple of errors. He's not the keeper he was, I'd say, in the Champions League win. But yeah, he has still been pretty amazing, to be honest.
Yeah. So that's the one. That's the thing that, Inter, the main problem we've had this season, even against Real Madrid, both matches, I feel like we played pretty well, especially at home at San Siro. But the problem is when we create the chances, we don't take them away. So even when we get in front of a goal, like Courtois, stood up to us last time around. So I can imagine us working hard to create chances, create good chances, and then just not taking them, or Alisson, just stopping us. So that is my fear going into it. And that leads me on to match predictions, which, I've tried to be pretty positive. I've tried to, Raj has tried to give us some insight into how Inter could potentially hurt Liverpool, Dumfries' pace, Perisic's pacing behind, Trent's defensive weaknesses and stuff like that. But I'm not feeling confident, Raj, man. I'm not feeling confident about this one. I know we're at home, so for that reason, I'm going for a 1-1 draw, and I'll take that if you offer it to me right now. But my brain says 2-1 victory for Liverpool, but my heart and positive and realistic side says we can nick a 1-1 draw. What are you saying?
So yeah, a few months ago, I was saying Inter win in the home leg. Honestly, I was saying 2-1 Inter, maybe 2-0 Inter. But the recent form, Thiago coming back in, this guy hasn't lost a game with Fabinho in a midfield partnership.
Wow!
Since he's come to the club, so I think it's 17 games, 16 wins, 1 draw, 0 losses. So I think I will go for. I'll go for a 2-1 Liverpool. I think, but you will score a goal. And it might come down that right-hand side or bullying Matip or something like that.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Even Inter fans are coming in with losses. Matthias says 3-1 loss. Hamza says 3-1 Liverpool. Wow. That tells you, bro, that the change of momentum over the last couple of weeks is funny. It's funny to see how football is such a fickle sport. The momentum can change.
Even with a 2-1 loss, though, the tie is still at least open with the no away goals rule. You could nick a 1-0 at Anfield somehow, and that puts you through. So the tie is definitely still open, even if you keep it to 1 goal margin.
Yeah. And as Neraduri and Elhe says, it's a good point. Like, Inter are the underdogs. Everyone knows no one's expecting anything from us, so we've got nothing to lose. So that can always, having that less of a pressure really, because no one's really expecting anything of us. That can always help sometimes as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it, Raj. If Bastoni was fair, I had a little bit more faith. Yeah, that is true. But at the same time, even with Bastoni, everyone fair, I wouldn't be too confident even with Correa. But thanks, Raj, for coming on, man. That was a really, really nice, insightful preview. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Anything you want to plug before going?
No, that's fine. Thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed it. Hope for a good match. I think it will be an entertaining match. Two coaches who like to play football. So, yeah, good luck.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone that joined in. Thank you for all the good comments and all the banter and all the positivity. And there was actually one comment before you go, Raj. It was about the Salah contract situation. What do you make of it? And can Don Beppe do his magic?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, Salah, I think the noises are he wants 400, 500k a week because Kevin De Bruyne is on that much, and apparently he wants parity with De Bruyne as a top earner in the Premier League. So maybe Beppe's got to fiddle some funds around in the interbank balance. But yeah, I think there is a possibility he might leave. I think it's getting worrying now. I think 18 months left on the contract. The Sharks will be circling. I'm sure Real Madrid have had a few words. Barcelona might even have a few words in their rebuild. So yeah, it's getting worrying for Liverpool's fans anyway. So, but yeah, we'll have to see what happens. So yeah, it's a big loss if he does go.
Definitely. But that's why you got Luis Diaz in there just in case something happens, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Raj, once again. Make sure you guys are leaving a thumbs up and subscribing. If you're a Liverpool fan or you're coming from, Raj's various platforms, make sure to subscribe. I make Inter content on a regular basis and general Serie A content when I have time. So yeah, make sure you check out the channel if you enjoyed the content today. And yeah, we're going into it with some hope, guys. Let's see what happens Wednesday. Obviously, I'll see you guys for a post-match reaction, which hopefully will not be too negative. Ciao, ragazzi. Forza Inter.